Yep, there we go. Alrighty guys, so really what I want to go through is just a very brief overview of what makes up an online model, and then the different ways that you can look at your online model in terms of outsourcing to actually first build it and then manage it going forward. So just very quickly, the components of your online model. Now, obviously website is generally the hub and is generally where you're trying to drive most of your traffic through. With the advent of social media, that is not always the case now, that there's actually a lot of really effective ways to sell your products and services across all the different social media channels. Obviously the big ones you would know: Facebook, YouTube, Twitter and LinkedIn. Email autoresponders is something that several years ago was relatively new, but anyone that spends a bit of time online these days has no doubt filled out a form and gets sent a lot of different stuff. And as Phil just mentioned, that's something that needs to be considered in a lot of detail, firstly from the point of view of the actual content that you're delivering to people, and secondly how you actually manage that through your sales funnel in order to convert. And the great thing with autoresponders is the automation that can create for you, that you can actually just set and forget, and if there are steps in that process that need to be followed manually, that's where outsourcing can really come in and help with that. And obviously then webinars, such as what we're doing right now, video marketing and membership platforms. Now I won't go into too much detail on those, I'll save that for another webinar in this series. So as I said, these components can all be outsourced to highly skilled, motivated people, of which there are literally tens of thousands of them out there looking to do your work. It's really important you understand the basics of what's required in terms of setting up your site, in terms of running social media strategies, all that sort of stuff. If you don't understand the basics, you don't know how to guide them. But the important thing is to retrain your brain and get yourself into the frame of mind that the first thing you think about when a task comes up, the first thing you think is, how can I outsource this? Can I give this to a person? Can I set up a system? Can I set up a process so this is not something I have to manage and do day by day? Don't skip one. Okay, so it's one thing I'm sure that you're all very familiar with, is the feeling that you need to control and do everything in your business. You need to stop doing that right now. As I said, you need to retrain your brain so that your first thought is, how can I get someone else to do this for me? That was something certainly initially when we began to outsource. Phil was a lot more effective at than me. Can be a bit of a control freak, particularly when it comes to design and video and things like that. And it took me quite a while to really get myself into that frame of mind. But now, everything that comes through me, my first thought is, do I need to do this? Or is there another way? And that's really the point where you need to get to. So whilst you can do that, please don't. Plan to do what you're good at and provides the most value to your business, and everything else should be outsourced. So in future webinars in this series, we will go through the basics for each component of the model. We'll show you the processes we use every day, and we have spent several years learning, adapting, modifying these processes so that we can deliver the minimal amount of instructions and get the maximum amount of results from our team. So as I said, when we first started, learning and managing all of the components of our online model was something, glad I did it at the time. I probably did too much of it and wasn't quick enough to start to outsource things like managing our website, setting up and managing the membership platform, the autoresponders, the video production, all of that stuff. That was really something that it took up probably 95% of my time in the business and didn't allow me to actually develop and grow the business forward. We knew there had to be a better way. So modeling what the best of the world were doing, we went in search of people that could do it for us. We started off by employing an assistant in Bangladesh who is still with us to this day and is one of our most valuable employees. we trained him to use all of the components of the online model, put in place processes for him that he could follow in terms of product delivery, in terms of marketing, and very quickly got ourselves to a point where we had complete confidence in him to get the job done. So we could actually just move on from those processes. We knew they were taken care of, and we were able to go on to the more important things like growing the business and marketing strategies and all that sort of stuff. So as the model expanded and our cash flow grew, we started to take on new team members, which did two things for us. Firstly, freed our time to start working on other models, which is what Phil and I are both really passionate about, is building and growing different business models and finding creative ways of making businesses work online. The key thing that I think I didn't appreciate initially when we began to outsource was the wealth of skills that can actually bring into the business. Now, obviously, having a background in video myself, I had definite doubts about the ability to outsource that because I understand the importance of video and the importance of getting video right. When Phil finally talked me into going and hiring a video editor to start to leverage some of the video work that I was doing, which obviously took up a lot of my time, I actually found that we got two video editors that actually have a wealth of skills in animation and motion graphics, which I have never learned. I would love to learn how to do it, but I don't have the time to learn to do that stuff. So we've actually we've improved the quantity and the quality of our work at the same time, and funnily enough, our cash flow did that exponentially. We could not have done this without outsourcing. There is no way our business would be anywhere near the level of what it is now without outsourcing, and that's just a fact. So, what can be outsourced? Probably the most important thing we've put in place is our project manager, which really is taking outsourcing to the next level. Phil will talk later about in this webinar series about the difference between outsourcing and outtasking, and putting a project manager in place has really enabled us to do true outsourcing and actually have other people managing the work and managing the processes and managing the deadlines. Now, one of the most useful things we've found with that is actually using online project management systems, of which we've used a couple, and training our guys to actually use processes for delivery within those online platforms has completely freed me to actually go off and create and build things rather than monitor and manage the team. You can also, of course, outsource your web development, your graphic design, as I mentioned earlier, video editing. There's some incredibly well-versed people in SEO online. It's something which doesn't have a lot of interest for Phil and I in terms of managing and putting together those strategies. We managed to find an SEO expert who was getting us terrific results and has a knowledge on SEO that is just far superior to what ours is. We've been using article writers to produce content for us. Now, there are some issues with the English barrier, of course, but there are people out there that can speak and write extremely good English. They just need a bit of guidance on the topics and the direction of the content that you want. We have our accountant in India who does all of our bookkeeping, manages our accounts. As Phil mentioned earlier, has actually spent a fair bit of time here in Australia working, so obviously understands our system and has been a huge asset to us. And then a few other things: administration, programming, data entry, research, obviously. And you can find people that can take on multiple tasks like this. You can take on people who just really specialize in one area that you see yourself needing to grow and develop going forward. Now, we've set up a team of full-time with a couple of part-time employees. You don't necessarily need to do this. As an example, you may take on project manager who has a relative understanding of a lot of different areas online. You can then entrust that person to go out and hire people for job-specific tasks, such as someone to set up your website. Then you can get a video editor put together some videos for your website, a video series for your responders, all things like that, and you can actually put that in the hands of somebody else to manage that and set it up. You don't actually need to maintain a full-time team while you're working through getting your cash flows up. Outsourcing is great, but the most important thing is understanding what components you need in your model, why you need them, and how to manage them using outsourced resources and systems. So really that's the stuff that we're going to go into more detail further in this series, is actually how to effectively use outsourcing, how to manage your team, how to hire them, all those sorts of things. So we're going to go through where to go to find the best resources, because really a lot of different countries, they all have different skill sets. Just as a quick example, we found the Philippines is the best place to go for design. They have that nous about them. They can see things. They're great at graphic design, web development, video editing. Whereas areas like Bangladesh and India, their attention to detail is outstanding. So it's really understanding and recognizing where the different talents lie and where to find the best people is really critical in setting up your team. We'll also talk to you about how much you should pay, how to actually hire people, so understanding the process of putting together an application, how those responses come back. And one of the most important things when it comes to outsourcing, particularly if you're looking at a long-term team member, is taking them through a testing process so that you can instantly figure out if they're the right fit for your business. If they work, you're a great chance of having a long-term relationship. If you test them out early and they don't come through for you, it's most likely that that's not going to work. We'll also talk to you a bit about managing your outsourced resources, so how to communicate with people. Obviously there's cultural issues there, there's English language issues there. We've been through all that stuff, we've experienced it all, and we can guide you on the sort of things that you can expect. We'll also go into more detail about the project management tools that we use. And something that we've put a big focus on is training our team, really trying to upskill them, which does two things. Firstly, obviously, it brings another wealth of skills into our business and guides them in the direction that we want them to work in. And the more skills your team members have, the more value they can bring to the team. And the other thing it does is it really makes them feel like they're part of a longer-term vision with you. And in our experience, if you can set that standard with them and you get people committed to your vision and get them to feel like they're actually a part of what you're building growing forward, that is a great way to build a team that wants to help you grow and wants to help you build and will ultimately help you succeed.